How long you been waiting, Joel?
7 minutes?
Jeez. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
No, no, actually, it's not all right. I just totally forgot about it.
Oh, did you? Well, at
On
least
Sundays,
you
on Sunday,
remember.
I have a list of everybody who has registered, and so what I want to do is on Sunday morning is I want to get that list and send it out to everybody. Then that reminds me that I have to do it, and so on and so forth. I was here writing a letter, and Bob Zink calls me and he says, "Are we having a meeting today?"
John, it's Howard. Can you hear me?
Hi, Howard. You're on as Teresa Zeitz.
Yeah. Is she connecting here, or I'll have to
She
work
is
with her?
connecting.
All right. I'll tell her. Well, I had to sort of exit a bit to.
Well, I'm going to change. Well, I'm going to change your name.
Well, her name is Teresa Zeiss.
No, no, I know, but I'm going to change your name to. Well, maybe I'm not going to change. Yes, I'm going to change your name to be Howard. And by the way, thank you very much. I opened up opened your packages. Appreciate it. It was very nice.
Okay, great. I'm gonna mute myself and then get back on the phone to her.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Are you connected?
she's on, except she's not. I don't know. Teresa, can you hear me? Can you unmute
Hear his
yourself?
voice.
You can stay right where you are, Howard. You're fine. Does Teresa have a microphone? Do you know?
All right, so I'm gonna hang up now. Is that
Oh yeah,
you're in the
here she
meeting?
is. Here she
If
is.
you have a problem, call me and I'll see what I can do. Okay.
Oh, Teresa.
Okay, thanks, Howard. We'll talk
Right
later.
on. Bye bye.
Yeah, no, Teresa.
Okay,
Teresa
bye-bye.
is on. You can hear me, right, Teresa?
Yes.
Good. Okay, you're on. And Howard, you're on also.
Yes, terrific. Good, good.
Okay. Nobody has to mute anything. Except Joel.
Be quiet. I'm making too much noise, I know.
Yeah, I know. We have to wait for Robert Zink because Robert Zink is the one who called me and reminded me of this meeting that we had this meeting. So I have to be polite at least. And
Absolutely, not a problem.
so, and also I'm going to call up my copy of the Constitution Study Guide
Good.
so we can share it on the screen.
Well, I don't know if they're doing it up in your neighborhood, John, but here in Pasadena, and I've heard in many, many parts of the country, in protest of the last few months, apparently, people just decided to set off fireworks for hours on end last night. There were no fireworks at the Rose Bowl, but Pat and I could hear fireworks from starting around 7 till we went to bed around 11 last night.
Well, good for them. Good for them. We had a few fireworks here. We're pretty rural. But what we did have also was on the courthouse steps at noon yesterday, we had a reading of the Declaration of Independence.
I think that's great.
And and I, of course, was part of the festivities and actually at the end brought the house down, and somebody caught it on video. They put it up. They allowed me to download it. I'm going to put it up on our Josephine County Constitution Study Group YouTube channel. And when it's up, I will be, forwarding it to everyone that you can go watch this half-hour extravaganza and watch me bring the house down at the end. Well, not at the end. It was
nice.
Anyway.
I think that's great.
John, maybe Richard Zink forgot himself.
No, he didn't, because he called me. He called me and said, "Are we having a meeting?"
An hour ago? 3
No.
hours?
No. He called me at like 5 minutes after 4 saying, "Are we having a meeting?" I don't have his phone number, but obviously he had mine. So
Well,
wait,
all right.
wait for him for a moment. And I don't,
Now, can you guys hear me if I talk? This is Teresa. Can you hear me?
yes, Teresa,
Yes.
Okay. Okay, because my picture's not showing, which is
I
fine with
know,
me.
I know. It looks, is your, if you put your, screen, if you put your cursor down at the bottom of the Zoom meeting window, it should open up and say mute and video and, participants and chat.
Oh, I've got mute and then start video. Do I
Start
hit
video.
start video?
Start video.
Okay.
There you are.
Oh, okay. There I am. Okay.
All
Learned
right.
something new.
Yep.
Hello, everybody.
And I
Hello.
learn
All right.
new all the time on this. Absolutely. Where are you from, Teresa?
Well, I'm living in Largo, Florida now, which is right just south of Clearwater.
Right. Okay.
I'm originally from Ohio, and I did 15 years in California.
Okay. All right. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Oh, Bob Zink is now asking to be admitted. Shall we let him in?
Yes, for heaven's sake, at last.
Yes. Bob. And he's, all right, getting ready.
Without glasses.
All right, Bob. Okay. There you go. Good. Thank you. All of us thank Bob. He's the one who made this meeting happen today.
Yay,
Bob.
Bob.
All right.
All right. So one of you is going to have to be the designated person to wake John up if it's 4 o'clock and I'm not on.
Send me
Where
your
did
phone.
Howard go?
What's that?
Where did Howard go?
Oh, Howard's here.
Oh, okay, because he disappeared. Oh, okay. Do I have to hit that blue little circle with a little arrow to show more? Let me see. I'm not real
Yes.
computer. Oh, okay. Oh, I see how that works. Well, Howard did put his face up.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
Well, you know,
I tried to start my camera and it said you can't find a camera. So
oh, well, okay. Yeah, I show it here. That you don't have.
I
I show
have
it
one
here.
somewhere, but if I plug it in, I'm gonna lose something else maybe. And the last time I had it plugged in, maybe that was the
that's
deal.
fine for now. That's fine. for
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So we've already wasted 15 minutes of Bob's time. That's 15 minutes he'll never get back. So I'm going to we'll just fly right into this if that's all right with everyone.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So as we start, usually, first of all, I ask if anyone has come up with any questions or any concerns, something that's come up over the last week or something that's just bugging you about the Constitution, and is that really constitutional, and why do they do this way or something like that? Anybody that's burning a hole in your mind? And
I have one.
yes, sir.
Well, the Democrats this week passed a bill in the House to turn the District of Columbia into a state so
Yep.
that they could have 2 senators and a congressman.
That's correct.
Now, I believe that the Constitution specifically forbade Washington, D.C. being a state because it is the seat and the area and location of the federal government, the central government.
Right. No. Okay. What you're talking about that is in. Are you ready? Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. It talks about the formation of the seat of government, which would be created by the cession of land from one or more states so that it would be its own little federal enclave and not a state itself. There is a reason that they did it that way because back when the seat of government at the beginning, it was in Philadelphia, I believe. Then it moved to New York, and when it was within a state, then the Congress, and this happened particularly in Philadelphia, that the Pennsylvanians got really not real happy with what was going on with the federal government. And so there were, I don't want to say riots, but there were mass demonstrations and that sort of thing against the federal government. And the federal government then had to ask the state of Pennsylvania to call out their militia to protect them, which meant that then the national government was at the mercy of one state. And so they said, we can't have this. We have to have the national government be able to control its own area and not be at the mercy of one state. So that's why they said, we're going to create this federal or this
Area.
its own district, its own area. So Congress certainly could make that a state, but it would have to be ratified first. Well, actually, it wouldn't have to be ratified.
Wouldn't it have to have a constitutional amendment to change that?
That will be the argument, because it does really strike at the heart of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, which when we get to that, we can talk more about that.
Okay.
Congress isn't real used to being hemmed in by the Constitution these days, so they may just try to do it anyway. It will be vetoed. It may not make it past the Senate. The worry is if we had a different House, a different Senate, and a different president, it might then become law and they would become a state, which is just, I mean, they've completely gutted that section of the Constitution. That is correct. It completely guts that section of the Constitution. So, all right. Anything else? Yes, sir, Joel.
Okay, I know you've explained this various times, and when you explain it, I always understand it, but back to the 3/5 clause, why was that more of a win for the North than the South?
Because
and I know it was a compromise, but the way you've explained it, it does not prove that everybody was pro-slavery in building the Constitution.
Right. Because what the southern states, what is called the slave power, that's what they actually called it at that time. They called it the slave power. That was the southern states that wanted slavery and wanted to extend slavery all the way throughout not only all of the United States, but all of the Western Hemisphere as well. But they wanted to count slaves as whole people so that they would then have a larger representation in Congress. Then having a larger representation in Congress, they'd be able to get their slave power waived. Howard, I'm going to mute you.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. I've muted you. They would get their slave power waived. But the North didn't want to cut them because they wanted to cut down the power they wanted to cut down the slave power. So they did not want to have them represented that way. And in fact, they didn't want to have slaves represented at all. So that it would cut the power even further. It would cut the Southern power, the slave holding power even further. And Frederick Douglass even, Frederick Douglass was a former slave, and he became, he managed to become free after a number of escape attempts and finally making it and so on. And when he got out, the first thing he said was, Constitution doesn't do anything for me. I was a slave. It didn't help me at all. So he was actually really quite against the Constitution. But then he started studying it, looking at it, seeing what it had. And he said, this actually is pretty clever the way they did this, trying to undercut the slave power and eventually get rid of slavery. And he recognized it. He explains it much more eloquently than I, but it's to the effect of, in the South, a person only has 3/5 of a vote, whereas in the North, a Black person has a full vote to be represented fully. But in the South, where they're enslaved, they are not represented, which means that they are not. That slave power is lessened, and then we will be able to defeat them because their power is lessened. And that was he thought it was a great great thing. Look him up sometime. What Frederick Douglass had to say about the 3/5 clause.
Okay.
It's actually a very eloquent, neat quote.
Great.
So, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. All right. Anything else? Shall we move on? All right. So we do a review at the beginning, and the first thing we review is what is a republic. And Bob is going for his book to see if he can. Bob, you're gonna help us and define what a republic is.
Well, I'm in a room that's pretty dark, so I'll see if I can find it here.
Oh, okay.
Well, if somebody else can come up with it first, let them do it. I'm looking for something here myself. Oh, that's why I'm having so much trouble with that. Well, Teresa, this must be exciting for you.
Well, it's no less exciting than, sitting around in this, hold up half of the time. So par for the course these days.
All right.
I can't,
I'll tell you what let's do.
I'm sorry.
Tell you what let's do. Here's a I'm going to try to clear off my desk a little bit here. Yep. All right. So, tell you what, yeah, go ahead, Teresa.
Oh, I've personally looked it up many times in the course room from several types of dictionaries. So
give us a shot. Give us a shot.
Well, it's representative, but it's when the people elect a representative then to lead, right? And so they don't vote directly for what they want. They're assuming that whoever they've elected has the wisdom to do what's right in Washington, D.C., or at the head of their own, state. Every state has that. And so, instead of directly voting on something, you vote for the representatives who are your senators and your representatives, and then they do the business of government, and you've trusted them to do the right thing. And so you don't directly vote on something, they do it. But it's like, well, that's their hat. We're hiring them to do that because we got to go do our jobs, and we got to clean the kitchen, and we got to go to work and everything else. So we basically hired them. So it is representative of the people, but on that via, rather than like a pure democracy would be everything that comes up. Everybody gets to vote, and then you end up with mob rule. The idea being that in a republic, the people that are elected are supposed to be smart and wise, which we know they're not half the time, but they're supposed to be. So they represent us and they do the work of government. That's my understanding of a republic versus a straight democracy. And I
Right.
know that gets very mixed up, and I used to have it mixed up, and so I just cleared words and looked in 8,000 dictionaries until I felt like I had sorted it out.
Okay. Well, you are in luck because we're going to sort it out even further.
Okay, that's fine with me. Any further
Okay.
information I get, it's hunky dory.
All right. Good. So I'll tell you what, I think what we're going to do is we're going to spend a little time on what is a republic. And this is, I'm now going to share. You can see my screen. What is a republic?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
The concise definition you were never taught. And this is what's even, they don't get it quite in the dictionaries either.
Yeah.
So what, okay, so this is the concise definition you were never taught. All right, we'll just start with this. Every republic has a constitution. Some constitutions are
Okay.
written. Some are, actually, Teresa, why don't you read this for us? The first couple paragraphs right here.
All right. Every republic has a constitution. Some constitutions are written, some are not. Some are followed, some are not. Some are cleverly put together, others are ham-handed. The Constitution of a republic describes the elements and mechanisms that constitute the government. It tells the limitations of the government.
Now,
Yeah, that's
now,
right.
now this is a most important part right here. Robert, go ahead and read this part here.
The Constitution of a republic describes the elements and mechanisms that,
Actually, we're the next paragraph, but that's
oh, the next, okay, every constitution is a mixture of basic building blocks. The building blocks are the natural forms of government known to the ancient Greeks. They were refined by Polybius about
Polybius, sorry.
years ago. Polybius, okay?
Huh.
Below is the concise definition of republic you were never taught. But to understand it, we have to first look at the book at basic building blocks, basic forms of government.
Okay, so Teresa, these are the natural forms of government. And the first one is an aristocracy. Then the second is a monarchy, and the third is a democracy. What you were talking about was democracy. You were talking about a representative democracy, which is
Yes.
which is fine. There's nothing wrong with a representative democracy,
Right.
as long as it follows all the rules that it's supposed to follow. But it is still a democracy. It is not a republic. It is a democracy. So we'll start with an aristocracy. I'm going to just do this very quickly. I don't think we need to read this, but it's a form of government that most of us first become aware of because most families are aristocracies. The dictionary definition is a government of the citizens deemed best qualified to lead. For instance, you got the parents. The parents are able to make better choices than the children because the children are not familiar enough with what goes on. If you had a democracy in this kind of a situation, when there was a vote for breakfast, every breakfast you would have ice cream, which is not necessarily healthy. So a democracy would not work for that kind of a situation where you had most of the people who are not able to take care of themselves that are basically children. The advantage of this kind of government is that everyone is cared for. This is the most important and valuable piece of an aristocracy, is that everyone does get taken care of. The disadvantage is that those in power come to care only for themselves. And that's how it gets to be a bad name. That's how come we had the French Revolution. That's how come we had the American Revolution. That's how come we had pretty much every kind of revolution there is.
Yeah.
Okay, to maintain an aristocracy, those who in power Now, here's an important point of this. To maintain an aristocracy, those who are in power, if it looks like their power is starting to slip away, they must disable everyone else.
Mhm.
They must make those other people too stupid to take care of themselves, unable to take care of themselves, believing that they cannot take care of themselves, so that they, as the minority, can remain in control of everyone else. That's an aristocracy. It is a natural form of government. It comes about when you have a population which most of the people that are in population are not able to take care of themselves. Like, for instance, in a family, the kids cannot, at age 3 and 5 years old, cannot take care of themselves. You need to have somebody take care of them. And so an aristocracy will come up because of that. The next one, that's a rule by a minority. So you have a minority of the people. You have, like, all the people, you have a minority of them take care of the rest of them. All right, the next one is, okay, then we just have exercises here to look around and see if you can find any of those in your life. The next one is a monarchy. Football
Oh, God.
coach. Perfect example
Yeah,
of a monarchy. It's a rule by one person. The essence of monarchy is one ruler, whether it's a football coach, king, ship captain, whatever. If you're on a ship and you all want to get to shore, you're going to take the guy who's the best seaman and you're going to say, tell us what to do. And then you're going to do, he says, raise the sail, you raise the sail. He says, bail out the boat, you bail out the boat. You don't question it because you want to get to shore. And that's the advantage of it, is because everyone wants to get in a particular place. The disadvantage is that the monarch could come to direct actions only for his own advantage rather than for the purpose of the group. We're all in the ship, we want to get to shore. He doesn't want to get to that shore. He wants to get someplace else. You don't want to go there. Well, but he says, no, you have to. That's the disadvantage. And then you get into all kinds of revolution and all kinds of horrible stuff going on. Comes from the Greek mono, one, and arche, a ruler. It's ruled by a single person. So you have, of all the people, you can have ruled by a minority of the people, which is an aristocracy, or ruled by one person, which is a monarchy, or you can have democracy, a government by the people, which is also called majority rule. So instead of one person or a minority of the people, it's the majority of the people. The majority of the people all want to have this or that, and so that's what you do. The democracy, now here's the key, however, to a democracy, is the democracy will work when each person is able to take care of himself and also right any wrong that he does to others.
Mhm.
This is extremely important. If I threw a brick through a store window, and then I could right that wrong, it would be part of a democracy. If it's not, it's part of a mob, and I am no longer able to right any wrong that I have done to others. That's where a democracy goes bad, because the people stop doing that. Then I go into a little bit about the history of the Golden Age of Greece and stuff like that. But it is the rule by the many. All right, and now we're going to do, this is the definition of republic. And we're just going to go ahead and read through this one. So Joel, take those first couple paragraphs, all right? Well, first of all, before we do that, Teresa and Bob and all, are we all together on this, or are there any questions? I don't want to leave anybody behind.
No, we're with you.
I'm good. Continue.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, Bob, do these two paragraphs here.
Bob or
What do
me?
you want?
Bob.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
As natural as rain, a group of people will choose to be governed by a monarchy, an aristocracy, or a democracy. If most of the people on a group cannot take care of themselves, then those who can take care of them will. And an aristocracy will arise whether anyone wants it to or not.
Good. Okay, so See, it's a natural form of government. I mean, depending upon what the people are that you have there, it's an aristocracy will just rise up. Nobody has to think, oh, I think we should do this. It's just like, it's what happens. Next one, is Howard still with us?
Oh,
You down there,
Where
Howard? Howard, are you with us? All right, I guess not. All right, Joel,
no.
wait a minute. Am I hearing Howard or not? All right, not at the moment. Okay, Joel?
All right.
Huh.
Similarly, if everyone in the group is headed in the same direction, a monarchy will naturally arise. The group can't help it. The people will choose someone to lead them. Finally, if everyone in a group can take care of himself and also watch out for the well-being of others, they will form a democracy. It will arise without anyone suggesting it. It just happens.
That's these three forms of government. They just happen. There is no, you don't have to think about it. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to anything. They just happen. Yeah, Teresa?
Get a call from Howard. Let me see what he says. Hello? Oh, okay. Howard is saying that he's been muted and for John to unmute him. And that John should look at his chat box. That's what he's telling me. Okay, bye. That was Howard. He just
Yeah.
called me and he said
Okay,
that
well,
he
I am
accidentally-
attempting to unmute you, Howard. Unfortunately, I cannot unmute you.
He already hung up from me, so.
Yeah, no, well, but I think he can hear me. I think you have to
Okay.
unmute yourself, Howard. There you go. Okay, Howard, can you hear me now? I show that I should be able to hear you, Howard. All right.
God.
Well, let's move on.
All right.
All right, Teresa, this
Yes, sir.
this paragraph now. These next two paragraphs are crucial to
Okay,
to the whole thing. So go ahead. Let's do those.
starting with the problem.
Yep.
Okay. The problem with each of the natural forms of government is that people run it. People can change from day to day. Any whim of the king or the bureaucrats or the mob can take everything away from you. You need something more stable, something to count on, no matter how often the rulers change. About 2,500 years ago, the Roman monarchy faced this very problem. The monarch had been selected by tribes that had joined together rather than destroy each other. The monarchy was a government of the tribes, a thing of the tribes.
Good. So you see what the problem is that because a democracy or an aristocracy is run by people and people, their whims change and they can suddenly get the idea they want to do something else. It's not stable. You can't, it can go,
Yeah.
every one of those, a monarch has an evil twin brother called a tyrant,
Yeah.
And this is exactly the problem they had with the Roman monarchy, which was they had the Latin tribe and the Sabine tribe and these other tribes, and they were there on the 7 hills of Rome, and they were beating each other's brains out, trying to figure, trying to one of them get the one up on the other one of them and stuff like that. And then they sat down and said, hey, whoa, why are we beating each other's brains out? Why don't we join together and beat everybody else's brains out? So they joined together as tribes. They had a monarch which ran them, and then that monarchy, after a while, started running into problems, becoming a tyrant. So they said, all right, let's have a different form of government. Can you hear me now, Howard? Can I hear you? No, now you're muted again. Okay, now you're unmuted. Good. Can I hear you, Howard? Okay, I can't hear Howard. We're going to go on to Bob. Oh, Bob, but Bob is muted. I'm going to unmute Bob. I'm gonna try
Can you
to.
hear me now?
There we go.
Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Romans demanded a new government based on law rather than the whim of the ruler. They formed a new government based on the people rather than the tribes. They called their new government Res Publica, the people's thing, what we call republic today.
So rather than being a thing of the tribes, this government was a thing of the people. And they called it res publica. Res is the thing of, and publica is the people. So, so what that is, oh, well, here we go. Now it's going to describe, you're now going to describe what that res publica was. So Joel, you want to read us those 2 paragraphs there?
The new government had elements of monarchy in it. When a single ruler was needed, it would be there. It also had aristocratic and democratic branches when those are needed. Because it is made up of other forms, it is called a mixed government. A republic is a mixed government.
And this is the thing, Teresa, that the dictionary definitions never really get. It is,
Yeah.
it is not, see, because what they described to you was a type of a democracy, but it's a
Yeah.
representative democracy where you elect your representatives and the representatives, but it's all majority rule. What they're talking about is all majority rule. A republic is not that. A republic has different branches in it that, and one branch of it is democratic, one branch of it is going to be aristocratic, one branch of it is going to be like a monarchy, so that they can balance each other out. We'll see in a little bit more about how that works out. But this is the point. When someone asks you, what is a republic? The first thing is a republic is a mixed government. Totally different than anything else. It's not like any other form of government. It's a mixed government. It's a mixture of all the others. Does that make sense?
Can you give examples? Like, what would be an element of monarchy in a republic? Would
All
that
right,
be
well,
a president or a governor, for
well,
instance, or
yes.
a mayor?
Yes. You can take our federal government, which was made by the Constitution. It has 3 branches in it. We know it has 3 branches in it. One of the branches has a single ruler on it, and what he says is the way it is, or the way it should be, and that's the president. So that's the executive branch. The executive branch is basically a
Right.
monarchy.
Okay. And then aristocratic would be then like, let's say a senate in
Well,
a state where the federal government.
Well, the Senate is more aristocratic than the House of Representatives, but the entire
Right.
branch of Congress all runs on majority rule. It's a majority of the senators and a majority of the House of Representatives. So that whole branch over there is actually democratic.
Okay.
Well,
I guess
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I guess I was thinking more aristocratic because it's, how many senators are there in relationship to
Well, no,
population?
and
You see what I'm
you're
saying?
right.
We have a group.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking.
and you're absolutely correct. And what we were going to do today was Article 1, Section 3, but I think we might not get to it. But Article 1, Section 3, it describes the Senate, and it describes in that, I will tell you how it is kind of aristocratic, but it really is democratic because it still is majority rule. What is the aristocratic part of it is the courts. Because you have a judge and you have some lawyers, and these guys have special knowledge. They're the grown-ups in the room, and the rest of us who are coming in there, the guy that's getting beat up by the government or something is a weak little child that has to be protected, and so on. It's very much the aristocratic form of government.
Okay.
So, So, but that's fine. I mean, you're right about the Senate, and when we get to the when we do Article 1, Section 3, we're going to talk about that more. We are going to talk about that more.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
All right. So now I don't remember who was reading or what we're doing. Are you reading? Are you reading, Bob, or what?
I think I was not reading. I think not Howard. Who's the other guy?
I was reading the first paragraph there, John.
Oh, you did? Okay, Joel, I apologize. I beg your pardon. Read the second paragraph, please.
We'll do so. The genius of a mixed government is to construct it in such a way that no branch can do its job without the other branches also doing theirs. That way, no branch becomes so powerful that a whim of a ruler gains too much power. Each branch has to work with the others, but at the same time, not be ruled by any other.
Can you see the genius of this? Can you see how delicately balanced this has to be? You have to make sure that this branch of it here has a check on the other branch, but then the other branch also has a check on the first branch, and they have to both work together in order to be able to get anything done. It's just
Yeah.
the most awe-inspiring ability to be able to put these things together in such a way that you have all three branches working with each other with the checks and the balances and all that to make sure that no one of them goes bad, that the democracy does not become a mob, that the courts do not become an oligarchy and runs roughshod over all of us. But of course, I'm not talking about anything that's really happening in our life. Okay. Teresa, I'm going to give this to you all the way to the end, but we'll do it slowly. Take it slowly, one paragraph at a time.
All right. A republic is not natural. It is constructed. It is man-made. The constant struggle in a republic is to not decay into one of the natural forms.
So you have this carefully constructed thing, but if you don't watch it, if you're not careful with it, suddenly one will become more powerful and overpower the others, and so on. That's the constant struggle, that it does not decay into one of the natural forms because it's man-made, it's constructed. Okay, next one.
All right. The people's thing, to serve the people, requires constant attention from the people. Makes sense?
Okay. I don't need to add anything to that. Okay.
Yeah. Heed the famous words of Benjamin Franklin. Directly after the Constitutional Convention, the story goes, Mrs. Elizabeth Powell anxiously asked Franklin, "Well, doctor, what have we got? A republic or a monarchy?" "A republic," answered Franklin, "if you can keep it."
If you can keep it, and that's because it requires the constant attention from the people. And the reason that we currently have so many of us looking at this and going, we got to do something about this government. We got to start understanding what's going on and so on, is because it's been so long that we haven't done that. It is decaying into its natural forms, and we don't like it.
So how do we go about changing it?
Well, the first step is to learn what it's supposed to be. Because right now there are so many things that are going on that you go, well, is this constitutional? Is that constitutional? If we did this, if we did that, but I want to look at what's the ideal scene. And that's what I try to look at here, is what is the ideal scene? And then from there, people start having their own ideas about what needs to change and how to change it. And I'm just looking at what's the ideal scene. That's the first thing I know that has to happen, is because a lot of people, most people don't have an idea of what the ideal scene is. What is good governance? How do you know that you've got good governance? So, all right. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen.
Hmm.
And we do have a little bit to go into Article 1, Section. Well, all right, let's just continue let's just continue the review. I think that we need to do that. I am going to go to
Hmm.
I have to share this back again. And we're going to do the Constitution of the United States. Yay! And we're going to whiz by all this stuff. And you see, in every one of my books, every one of them has what a republic is. I talk about it everywhere, because to tell you the truth, if 100 years or 500 years from now I'm remembered for anything, I want it to be, that's the guy that got us to understand what republic is again.
Good idea.
Yeah. So in the
Well,
preamble,
you need to write your own epitaph, John.
like Thomas Jefferson did, huh?
Right.
Right here in the preamble, we see first of all that it's a republic, exactly the way that the Romans made their republic, res publica, the thing of the people. This starts off with, we the people of the United States are doing this. There are some people who refused to sign this and didn't want to have anything to do with it, like for instance Patrick Henry, because he believed that it should have been the states. He wanted to have, we the states of the United States are forming this. But they went beyond that, and they said, no, we're going to be like, we're going to be a republic. So they established and ordained this Constitution for the United States. Then Article 1, Section 1 says, this is going to be one of the branches of government. We're going to have legislative power is going to be in a Congress of the United States, which is a Senate and a House of Representatives. This now is the beginning of the description of that branch of government, which is the Democratic branch. Then we do Section 2, Article 1, Section 2, which has to do with the House of Representatives. Talks about who it can, what are the qualifications for a person to be in the House of Representatives? How does that person get elected? How do we determine, who are the people who can vote for it? How do we determine how many representatives there should be? And it ends with that the House of Representatives has the sole power of impeachment down here. Then we go on to, and I realize this is kind of fast, Teresa, but then we go on to Article 1, Section 3, which is the Senate. The Senate, I think, I just want to do the very first paragraph of this, just this very first paragraph. And Bob, why don't you just do this first paragraph here?
Okay. The Senate of the United
Whoops, we lost you, Bob.
Oh, no.
Up.
What's that?
You cut out, Bob.
I'm sorry?
You cut out. You want to try it
From each
again?
state- Yeah. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislature thereof, for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote.
Good. That's basically what the Senate is. And this is as far as we're going to go on this. But the House of Representatives, see, this was this was one of the huge sticking points in putting this Constitution together, because we had a number of large states like New York, Virginia, Pennsylvania, which had a lot of people, but under the Articles of Confederation, they only had one vote, just like Rhode Island and Delaware had. So they felt that they were being kind of cheated because they had a lot more people that they had to take care of. So they wanted to have the legislature of this new legislature, they wanted to have it be based entirely on people. However, the smaller states realized that they would be completely obliterated by the larger states, because the larger states had so many more votes and power than they did, so that they would not be able to hold their ground, and they would be overrun by the larger states anytime. So they said, okay, here's the deal. Why don't we do this? We'll have one house represent the people, so that each group of people has one vote. So that's the representative part of it, but it's a democracy, but it's a representative part of the democracy representing the people. But then on the other hand, let's have this Senate, which represents the states, and it's going to be a democracy of the states. In order for some law to pass, it has to pass not only the democracy of all the people, or the majority of the people wanted it, but also a majority of the states that wanted it as well. In that way, the small states would not get overrun by the large states, and the large states would not get overrun by the small states. But they're both democratic, but one of them is democratic of the people, the other one is a democracy of the states. However, they well knew that since these people are going to be chosen by the legislature, then they're going to represent the legislature. The legislature is going to represent the people that are have more political clout, who have more power, who have more money, that's going to be the moneyed, the aristocratic elements of the society are going to end up being represented in the Senate. And they knew that that was what was going to happen, which is one reason why they later on, they started calling it the rich man's club, which makes it seem like it's aristocratic, but it's not really. It's still a democracy of the states. But then that was changed by the 17th Amendment, but that's neither here nor there. So basically what I wanted to do is get this so that Teresa, we could talk about that thing about having, whether or not it's aristocratic. So I would just ask you if you have any questions about that. If it doesn't seem clear.
Well, I'm not clear. First of all, chosen by the legislature. Who's the legislature here?
The legislature of the state. So you see, it'll be composed of 2 senators from each state. So you have 2 senators from Virginia, chosen by the legislature of Virginia.
Right. So I'm not quite understand. And then I can't read all this stuff on the right-hand side, because now we elect our senators.
Yes, that's by popular election. That was the 17th Amendment in 1913. Originally,
Oh, okay, because I can't read all that. So it got changed then to where rather than chosen by the legislature, then it got changed to the people.
Is that off the screen? Can you not see that?
Well, my the pictures of everybody are covering on my right-hand side.
You can move the pictures. You can move the pictures.
Oh, there we go. That worked. Okay,
Oh.
changed by popular election 1930 by 17th Amendment. Some say it was safe. Reason why. But okay.
Well, I don't want to get in. I don't want to necessarily get into that, but it's because what we had here was what's called a federal form of government. And federal comes from federis, which means to trust, so that you're having the state governments trust see, when they did this, they weren't thinking of it as that this national government. They didn't call it the federal government. They called this whole system of governments. They had the state governments, and then they had this national government, and it was a number of governments all working together, and it was a federal system of governments. And
Yeah.
And it was kind of based again on the Roman model, where the Romans would go in and conquer a territory, and they would leave the king of that territory there, but the only thing that he had to do was pay tribute to Rome, so Rome could collect its taxes, but he could run that king could run his own area, and Rome wouldn't really get involved in the internal dealings of that area, because they had their own culture, they had their own things that they considered to be important, they had their own, they knew their ways, they knew their, and so on, and Rome wasn't real interested in going and messing around with that. All they wanted was their tax money out of it. So they set up the king there to be over his area, and all that Rome did was have a garrison there to collect the taxes. So you'd have these different levels of government, and that's what we were shooting for here, was that you had this national government at one level, and then you had these state governments at another level, and the state governments would be the ones that would mostly really deal with the people and the day-to-day living. The national
Right.
government dealt with things like treaties with foreign nations and that sort of thing. So the states still had to have their powers, and if a law were to be passed that was going to intrude on a state's powers, the state would want to have a voice in that. Say, well, no, wait, we do that now. We don't want to give that to you. You shouldn't do that. We want to keep that. So they would vote against it. And if enough states did that, then the law wouldn't pass. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just have a question. On this original thing here, before it was changed by the 17th Amendment,
Yeah.
is the definition of legislature, is that the House of, who's the?
Well, that's whatever the legislative bodies were that were in the state.
Okay, fine. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, Virginia had the House of Burgesses, and whatever.
Oh, okay, all right. That's
All
good
right.
enough.
All right. All right, and I'm sorry that we never got Howard back on, but I have him unmuted, but he apparently is not able to speak here, and Joel had to go. Thank you, Joel, for having been here. Anyway, that's as far as I wanted to go on this right now. There's a lot to be said about the Senate, and we will cover that next time. And I will set myself a reminder, so I'll be here at 4:00.
John, what do you suggest we do to get prepared for next week?
We're going to do section 3.
Okay, so we should just read through that and
Yeah.
have our questions ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
And also in particular I have here on the page before, we have Article 1, Section 3, the key words.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep.
Wow.
All right, guys.
Okay.
It was fun.
Yeah,
right.
thank you. That was like, oh my God, you have all the historical stuff down,
Well, I have
back to the roots.
more than most, but not as much as some. But
Okay.
Thank you.
Certainly more than me, okay?
Okay.
That's why we're here.
I mean,
All right.
I just
Have a
had
good
to
week,
bring
guys.
Hope to see you back next week, Teresa, and I'll see you, Bob, and I'll see you, Howard.
Okay, take
All
care.
right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.